This is the moment we've all been waiting for. The electric Volkswagen Passat is here and it's called the ID.7. Let's see if it's any good.
Volkswagen ID.7 is actually slightly larger than the new Passat and the Arteon. But the big differences are in the wheelbase. The ID.7 has a wheelbase 13 to 14 centimeters longer than its ICE brethren. At 496 centimeters in length, the ID.7 is also 5 centimeters longer than the Passat and 10 centimeters longer than the Arteon. But at 10.9 meters, its turning circle is about a meter tighter than in the other two models. The 77 kWh traction battery in the floor is the same as in the VW ID.3, but in the ID.3 it's the range-topping battery option, while in the ID.7 it's the entry choice. Ultimately, the ID.7 will also be available with an 86 kWh battery and a WLTP range of up to 700 kilometers.
Interestingly enough, despite the same battery size and more than 200 kilograms extra weight, the 77 kWh ID.7 has slightly longer range than the ID.3, at least on paper. How's that possible? VW developed a new generation electric motor, improved battery management and worked on aerodynamics. The drag coefficient of the ID.7 is just 0.23.
Low, wedge-shaped nose, improved air intakes at the bottom of the front and better channeling of the air to the sides, better wheel aero, low resistance tires, covered undercarriage, flared side sills, side separation edge, optimized wing mirrors, tailgate with integrated separation edge, optimized diffuser. To put it bluntly, efficiency stupid.
Meanwhile, the boot capacity is 532 liters, including underfloor storage. There's a double floor, so with it in the upper position and with the seats in the second row folded, we get a flattish loading area on 1586 liters. By the sill, there's a deep storage compartment which can accommodate not only a subwoofer but also two charging cables. This is great news because in the ID.3 this storage compartment was too small to fit the subwoofer and the cables. Of course, I'd still prefer a frunk rather than having to unload the boot to get to the charging cables, but at least they're out of sight. Or you can store them in one of those commodious side pockets here. There is also a emergency triangle holder, and there are levers to fold the back seats, and we have shopping bag hooks. Also, to close the tailgate, you just need to flick the button and you don't have to hold it for an eternity for the car to decide that you want to close the boot, like in Japanese cars. I have a feeling that the team who used to be in charge of designing usable VW interiors has been rehired. About flippin' time.
Rear passengers have a lot of legroom and not so much headroom. I'm 175 centimeters tall and the driver's seat is set to my driving position. There is the third zone climate control, 2 USB-C ports, flat floor, door pockets, as well as pockets in the front seat backs. Behind the armrest with cup holders, there is a ski hatch. The backrest splits 40-60. Isofix anchor points are on the side rear seats as well as the front passenger seat.
Up front we have a new variation on the ID series cockpit. This time the central display is 15 inches across and it runs ID software 4. On the plus side, the touch-sensitive climate control slider is now backlit, finally, and the software seems more responsive than in the earlier versions. Many features have been moved to the desktop let's say, to the main screen, so they're easy to find. You can also configure your favorite shortcuts, which are to appear up here if you want quick access. But something I cannot fathom is why Volkswagen makes me take my eyes off the road to see my full trip data. Now, some of it is displayed on the standard head-up display, not in the instrument cluster, but if you use navigation, then data about fuel economy, or rather energy consumption, is replaced with navigation directions.
I get that VW engineers are convinced about the greatness of their sat-nav and route planning with charging along the way, so that the driver doesn't have to think about economy and range. However, I know from experience that in certain parts of Europe you better know exactly what your range is, and you have to have several apps just in case to get you to a working fast enough DC charger that isn't occupied. At the same time, I admit I'm impressed with the data about charger availability and charging speed displayed right there on the map.
Climate control is automatic, but in the wrong way. I really don't want the car to set the direction in which the air is blowing for me. I prefer to set it myself, and I'd rather not have to move my finger around the screen to do it. It's distracting. Automatic programs are even worse. On the plus side, the seats are cooled, even with Alcantara upholstery.
The door pockets are large. There's a good sized cubby for a phone and other bits and bobs you may want to charge using one of the two USB-C ports. The cup holders have rubber inserts which keep your beverage in place. Storage under the armrest is big. The glove box is on the small side though.
And there's this clever panoramic roof which Ewan McGregor seems to love so much in the ID7 ad. The crystal particles inside the glass, when left to their own devices, make the roof opaque, but when electricity runs through them, they line up and you can see through the glass. And now, here's my impression of Ewan McGregor in that ad. We start with ISA. The Intelligent Speed Assist is a mandatory system on the new cars in Europe, and it's beeping at me already. It's an audible warning about exceeding speed limits, and it's active every time you start the car. Now, VW makes you do 2 clicks to turn the bloody thing off, but you don't lose traffic sign recognition as you do in a Toyota.
Performance. Volkswagen promises 6.5 seconds from 0 to 100 km per hour. I was able to achieve 6.2 seconds in both comfort and sport modes. Sport mode mainly stiffens the adaptive suspension, but you can just as well set it yourself in individual mode. Energy consumption. Volkswagen promises between 14 and 16 kWh per 100 km. On my test route, I managed 16-17 kWh in optimal weather conditions. This gives a real-world non-highway range of about 450 km, which is almost 140 km less than the official WLTP figure, but this is also marginally better than in the ID3, which I drove in similar weather conditions. In city traffic on warm spring days, I even got below 13 kWh per 100 km.
At 120 km per hour, the ID7 consumes about 20 kWh per 100 km. The faster you drive, the closer it gets to about 30 kWh. I suspect that in winter, I'd average around 25 kWh per 100 km at 120 km per hour, so that's more or less Tesla Model Y territory. This car has the optional €990 heat pump, which should keep energy consumption lower during the winter.
Peak charging speed is 175 kilowatts. With the bigger battery, you get up to 200 kilowatt charging. An interesting feature is preconditioning the battery without route planning. When you know you're going to charge at a charger of your choice, you just tap a button on the screen and the car will prepare for faster charging.
The ID.7 can tow up to 1 ton and the hitch can hold up to 75 kilograms. This car doesn't have the optional electrically operated tow hitch, which costs about €1,200. The semi-autonomous driving package in VW is called Travel Assist. It now collects data from the cloud, or the swarm as VW likes to call it, and prepares the car for events which other VWs have registered in the area. So, for example, the lane keeping assist will move you towards the edge of the lane in order to avoid a pothole, let's say, because other drivers did that. Unfortunately, I don't have many new VW drivers in my area, so I wasn't able to test if and how this really works.
But I do know I was unable to successfully pair the car with the VW app. Granted, I am filming this review during a long weekend, so I didn't want to bother the PR department. I was also unable to persuade the car to remember my driveway and park in it. I managed to make it drive out, but it wouldn't drive back in. After several attempts of saving new maneuvers, the car displayed a message, "This function is currently unavailable." Volkswagen ID.5 failed to drive into my driveway because there was a tiny incline, which was too much of a barrier for the system to overcome.
How does the ID.7 ride and handle? Well, it's pleasant enough, it's quick and agile, it's well soundproofed, but it's not without its flaws. So, the wing mirrors are massive, so when approaching an intersection I have a large blind spot behind the right A-pillar, which makes people in cars disappear. The brakes bite quite low. In an emergency situation they're very effective, and outside you can smell how they stop 2.2 tons, but I'd prefer a better feel in everyday use, not only in emergency situations. Also, I couldn't find adaptive recuperation settings anywhere. There's only B mode on the drive selector. In B mode the recuperation is noticeable. In D mode it is not. Perhaps Volkswagen has decided that it has such a smart energy management system that recuperation is unnecessary.
Prices of the VW ID.7 start at €53,995. For now, there is only one battery option. All-wheel drive and bigger battery will come later. The Tourer, or the ID.7 Estate, is also available for order. This test car with options costs €63,255.
€63,000 is a lot of money, and I'm not going to convince anyone otherwise. However, cars are expensive these days, and in many parts of the world EVs are still more expensive than ICE cars, so without incentives it's a hard sell. It's of little consolation that the ID.7 is larger than the Kia EV6 or Hyundai Ioniq 6. It's almost as big as the much more expensive Tesla Model S or the premium models like BMW i5 or Mercedes-Benz EQE. And how do you like the ID.7? Are you waiting for the Tourer and the larger battery pack, or is the diesel Passat your cup of tea? Let me know in the comment section below.
If you like my sarcastic, down-to-earth and possibly mildly amusing car reviews, join me every Friday at 3 p.m. Central European Time, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video as it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.